Hey there, I'm Jill Allen, and this is Find Your Fierce, the show designed for women to discover your fierce, unlock an unstoppable mindset, build unbreakable courage, and completely transform how you show up every single day. Each week, I will bring ideas, methods, and strategies that will inspire you to step into your greatness and live life on purpose. Let's be fit, fierce, and unstoppable. Hey there, gang. Welcome to Find Your Fierce. I'm Jill Allen. I'm super fired up to have you here with us for episode 184. If you're new to the show or just tuning in to our Hike, Live, Explore series through the mountains, we're on episode 4. So be sure to scroll back to catch the earlier ones. You'll be so glad that you did. And today we're continuing our journey with my friend Stacee, sharing lots of amazing stories about life on the trail, everyday experiences, the ups and downs I know that we all face. And let me tell you, this series is all about perseverance, and I guarantee it'll hit home for you too. But before we dive right in, let's catch up for a second. It's awesome to have you here, spending time with you. I wanted to give you a couple quick updates. First of all, Set Fire is still available on Amazon. So if you haven't picked up a copy yet, now's the time to do so. Trust me, it'll ignite a spark of courage in you so that you can live your life to the fullest. But that's not all. We are smack dab in the middle of the Fall Trailblazer Challenge, and you can still join us, making today your day one. And the challenge is all about getting outside, unplugging, and exploring the beauty of nature. The goal is to hike a total of 30, 40, or 50 miles on the trails in 1 month. You get to pick the miles, and to make it even more fun, challenge yourself to visit at least 2 new locations. So whether you're a beginner or a seasoned hiker, the Trailblazer Challenge, I know, is the perfect way to get you out there and enjoy the great outdoors. So let's lace up our hiking boots. Let's hit the trails together. Registration is open at jillallencoaching.com. Are you ready? I know I am. So let's dive in. I mentioned that we have a special guest. Stacee is here with us. And what's crazy is I just love how social media works and when you can connect with absolutely amazing people. And Stacee is one of those new friends that I just met. I met her through Facebook, and she's originally from Buffalo, New York, and she made the move to Charlotte, North Carolina. And she spent the last 20 years directing child development centers and studying programs abroad that were nature-based learning, which sparked an interest in hiking and spending more time outdoors. And she's here to tell us all the things. So I'm so excited. Stacee, how are you?
Great. I'm doing great.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're here. I know this is going to be really good. I know we spent a few minutes talking before, we hopped on here, and it's going to be amazing. So you already had so many stories, and I just can't wait for you to be able to share this with, women that are just excited about hiking, or more importantly, just wanting to get outside, but maybe afraid or not knowing where to start, where to begin. And you just kind of dove right in, didn't you?
I did. Like we talked about it, is that it came to me in my dream, and I did my first hike in 50 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And
not too late ever.
And when that voice came to me in 2022 and said, "Hey, you're doing the Appalachian Trail. You deserve space in every room," all my fears went away, and I started preparing for the Appalachian Trail. And the only person that I knew prior to starting the trail was Mike at the REI store. And just, so I, leaned in and I started, learning about the trail. Initially, I was a little apprehensive about doing the trail prior to the dream. I would go and do hikes in rural parts of North Carolina. And sometimes, whether a police officer was following me and, again, just really feeling not safe. Mm-hmm. And so I called up the Appalachian Trail Conservatory, and they said, because when I asked about the number of women of color on the trail, they'd indicated that it's 1% for Blacks, but as a Black woman, it's less than 1%. And so I was really apprehensive about doing the trail. But the next day I had a dream, and in the dream it said, in 2023, you're doing the Appalachian Trail. You deserve space in every room. And all my fears disappeared. And I just started planning for it and moving, again, learning about gear, learning about the trail. And there was no doubt in my mind after that dream, I knew I was doing the trail. I set up my home to Airbnb my home. I took a bunch of jobs to save up money for my Appalachian Trail and got on trail on March. I did the approach trail on March 6th because it's Benton MacKay's birthday, the founder, whose birthday is the day before mine.
The
And I
founder
started
of
the
the
trail.
trail. The founder
What
of the
was that?
trail. The founder of the trail.
Yes,
Okay.
it's the day before mine. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
And just, got on trail, and it's been the most epic experience of my life.
Mm.
And, in full transparency, I was kind of concerned when I first got on trail, not so much thru-hiker community is so amazing and loving and just everybody on trail is amazing. It was to going off trail that I had some hesitation, but I still needed stuff. I needed food. I needed to shower. I needed to wash my clothes. So the first time that I went to a hostel, I was really, nervous because they're picking you up from a trailhead, but they don't know what you look like. So what's going to happen? My other thru-hikers were, about to get in the car excited about, but their excitement and my excitement is different. I'm hoping that be receptive when they see that I'm different, right? And so when I got when they picked me up, they were like, hey, we got into the vehicle, went to the hostel, and I, initially I said, hey, I'm going to stay in the tent because I was so afraid if there was an awkward feeling, I wanted to make sure that I kind of separated myself. So if I slept in my tent, I'm not in the house, but I'm getting all the things that I need to get done. So at that point, I said, I'm going to sleep in my tent. So most of the hostels are operated by thru-hikers, which I didn't know.
Okay. I didn't know that either. Okay.
And so I get there and it's like, hey, and just like so much love.
Mm.
When I tell you, some of my favorite parts of the Appalachian Trail is getting off trail and being in towns and meeting all these amazing people. It was the very same thing that I feared in the beginning, but there's so much love and kindness that
Wow.
I experienced on the trail. There's so much love that I have for so many people. And even from the standpoint, and again, I didn't start off as a hiker. It came to me in a dream. My first backpacking was overnight, one night in February of 2023. My longest hike was like 8 miles, but I knew I was called to the trail. And so I started out doing like 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 15. By the time I got off the trail, I was doing easy 18 to 20 miles a day. My longest day was 26. This journey has been so amazing on so many different levels. But because I wasn't per se a hiker, I didn't know when it says, hey, there's a side trail to the peak. I'm going to take that side trail. No one else did, but I would take it. I would take it and I would wait. In the morning time, I would get up with the sun and I'd wait to have my breakfast so that I can have it on top of the mountain and have tea. So I leaned into all the side trails and everybody's pushing miles.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I'm not pushing miles. I'm here to enjoy the trail and all of its glory. My name is Dragonfly because I'm a scuba diver, kayaker, paddleboarder. I love the water. When I did my first hike, I was like a kid, like, this is so amazing. Look at these trees and plants. And just like a dragonfly, dragonflies start 2 years of their life in water. And then when they get to land, they marvel at everything. I was that one. And so, doing the trail was so like, I started in March, so it was cold. So I got to see, the budding flowers and the different plants. And like, it was like every day I got to see something new. Every 4 days, I'm in a town with other thru-hikers learning about the trail and the stories. And it was so amazing. Now, let me tell you, in New York, I was on the ridge line of New York, and basically it's a rock, a bunch of boulders on the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up there. Well, I was actually coming down the mountain and there was a rattlesnake in my path. So I stopped abruptly and then leaned back and put my hands out to brace my fall. And while I braced my fall, I hurt my wrist, but I didn't know how bad it was. But the day before that, there was a day hiker. Now, I was at camp and the other thru hikers were, we were around the fire, and someone said, "Hey, over there's a day hiker over here, come on over here, Dragonfly, with the thru hikers." And I'm thinking, I already know what that's like. So I walked over to the day hiker and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Dragonfly. What's your name?" He was like, "Brooks." So we get to talking. So when I was up on that mountain and I hurt my wrist, I turned around. Who's behind me but Brooks?
Mm.
And Brooks is an EMT. He said, "Dragonfly, so I'm on the top of the mountain. I have to go 9 miles down the mountain, rock scrambling, rebar, everything." So I said, "Listen, Brooks, I don't know how I'm going to do this." He said, "We got this. We got this." So, I had to go down a rebar. He was like, "Lean in," and then there was a part where the rock was like a slope, but it was very narrow slope. And I was like, "Brooks, I don't know how I'm going to do this." He was like, "Listen, Dragonfly, there's little notches. You focus on the notches." And so I was like, okay. And so as we're going, hiking along, because I have to hike like 9.5 miles to get to the trailhead. And so I was, holding my hand, and he was like, "Yeah, it hurts, but just distract yourself, so he was kind of like giving me all these tips. And at the time, there was another thru hiker who had a 12-year-old son. And the 12-year-old son loved to hike with Dragonfly because I always had cool snacks. And I'm a teacher by trade. So the mom was way ahead. And the 12-year-old's name is Bargain Boy. So okay. I was with Bargain Boy when I got injured, and Brooks. And so Brooks said, "Listen, Barter, I need for you to go get your mom, let her know that Dragonfly is injured." So, he went ahead. So when I actually came off the trail, everyone was like, "Hey, you okay? You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay." But I really couldn't, when I fell, it hurt. But again, when you're hiking, everything hurts. Mm-hmm. So it just it felt weird, but I wasn't certain. So needless to say, I get to the hostel and they were like, "Hey, you probably need to go to urgent care." So the hostel owner, again, the hostels in the towns that I was afraid of, they're taking care of me. And I was like, I was kind of almost afraid to ask about going to urgent care because it's outside of and I was like, "Well, how much is a shuttle?" Because I was in New York, but the urgent care that I needed to go to was in New Jersey, which was 30 minutes away. So I was like, "How much does a shuttle cost?" And the owner of the hospital was like, "Listen, we want you better. We don't care about that." And so I was like, whoa. And so they took me to the doctors, and I found out that I broke my wrist in 2 places.
Oh my gosh.
So initially they put a brace like this on. Okay. And so I get back to the hostel, I get my pack, I go in the backyard, I put my tent up. And now, again, using my body to put my tent up because I can't really use my wrist. And then I'm taking my gear and I'm putting it in my pack, and I'm just, practicing doing this, putting up my tent. So the hostel owner said, "Dragonfly, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm getting back on trail tomorrow." And he was like, "You're doing what?" It's like, "Yes, I'm getting back on trail tomorrow." And so by this time, people are calling me, because there's something really miraculous about the trail. Something can happen and everybody knows about it. So here it is. So the next day, I'm all geared up. I'm, going on the trail. I go to get my trekking poles. I can't hold them because my wrist. Uh-huh. So I had to put my trekking poles up and, and just, I got on trail. And a few people, had, when you get up to the top of the mountain, you'll get a signal. And so I noticed I got like 10 messages from people. What's going on? So I go to check and they're like, yeah, Dragonfly, I heard, you broke your wrist and you're off trail and we're going to miss you. I was like, you're not missing me. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. And everybody on trail was saying Dragonfly with the broken wing, but not a broken spirit. And because I didn't have trekking poles, my miles went down because your trekking poles are 4 points of contact. So you're moving your body, your whole body. When you don't have trekking poles, you just have to use your legs. So you don't have that power. So I went back down to like 10 to 15 miles, but I just kept at it. And it was really funny is that, a lot of times when I would see people and they would be trekking up the mountains, like, we got this, and encouraging them. And needless to say, as I'm going through the different states, I get to the whites. And so everyone was like, Dragonfly, there's absolutely no way that you can get through the whites with one hand and a cast. And so I was like, okay. I was, so a trail angel, Miss Janet, who is amazing. I called up Miss Janet. I said, Miss Janet, listen, I'm going to have to go to Maine and come down because I don't know that I can do the whites, but at least I'll be able to summit and I can do, as much as I can. And she said, I hear you, Dragonfly, but you need to stay on course. And I was like, no, they said it was really hard. And they said that the whites, are just really difficult and there's big, giant boulders. And she said, Dragonfly, are you the same woman that got back on trail the next day after you broke your wrist in 2 places? Yeah, that was me. Get back on that trail. When I got to the whites, I had built up my legs so much over the course of the weeks because I didn't have a trekking pole. I was at the hostel. I did a slack pack because I was so afraid of these moose lock is what it was. And I was like, I'll do a slack pack. I not typically do a slack pack, but I figured, well, let me just do a slack pack for this situation. And so they dropped, I think it was like 5 of us off at the trailhead. So I was like, okay, and then they'll pick us up, when we finish at the next trailhead. So, okay. So I get up there, start moving. And it kind of felt initially like, oh, this is like Pennsylvania, and I would play this game in Pennsylvania that the ground is lava and the rocks are, the safe place. I would like skip. So it's like, oh, this is just like this. And then the boulders and the rebar, I was like, oh, I got this. I was the first one done of the 5 people. And I did it with a broken wrist. Wow. And that kind of built my confidence, like, oh, I got this. The beautiful part about the Appalachian Trail, you're going up a mountain and it takes every bit of energy. You get to the top and you feel like you are on top of the world and so resilient and this is amazing. But then you got to get humbled real quick because you got to go down. And every day, that's kind of what the journey was like. I would feel so proud of myself and like, man, I did it. And then I got to go down and do it tomorrow. So it's just, always humbled. And like I said, as the people in the trail, and majority of the time I hiked alone, or I would hike periodically with different people. But, I would often, when I would hike distinctively in Vermont, there was so much water, you go to step down. Sometimes I would hold one trekking pole so I can test the water. But if you put the pole down and the water is deep, you plant it in and I'm down. So I can't even tell you the zillion times that I've fallen down. I fell in the mud, but I just kept on getting up. And the most beautiful day, when I summited Katahdin, I was frightened because I know it was hard. I knew it was going to be hard, but just like the whites, but people said, oh, it's really, it's very difficult. But I went ahead and I, kept on moving. The whole time I'm saying, okay, I got this. I got this. That's from my son, where my son told me, hey, when I told him I was doing the Appalachian Trail, And he was like, okay, Mom. I was like, what do you mean, okay? And he said, listen, I've watched you wear so many hats over the course of my life. If anyone can do this trail, you got it. So, okay, Mom, you do it. So the whole time I'm going up and climbing over these boulders, I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm just climbing and climbing and climbing. I get to the top, and there had been a lot of rain. So there was a lot of people that had waited out the rain. So when I actually summited, there was a lot of people up at the top. So I go over to the sign and I get in the back of the sign, and I had a long shirt on, and I pulled my sleeve down where you could see the cast.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood up on the podium, and everyone started clapping because they could not believe that I just climbed Mount Katahdin in a cast. And on the way down, like it just above the clouds. And, on the way down, again, you're getting humbled, you're feeling powerful, and then you're like, okay, you got to come down. So as I'm coming down, there was an older gentleman, maybe in his 60s, maybe in his 70s, I don't know. I'm kind of like living in the moment of just summiting Katahdin and feeling like this amazing sense of peace, just how beautiful it was. And there was a gentleman in front of me, just, these rocks and this, he's just fussing. So it's like, hey, are you okay? He's in front of me. He's like, I'm just old. I was like, well, you might be old, but you just summited Katahdin, sir. Yeah, but these kids keep running around me, and and he's just fussing. And I was like, okay, but let's not lose sight that you just summited Mount Katahdin. Yeah, but my knees, and I'm old, and I'm like, so he's just, fussing. And so by this point, I'm afraid to pass him because he's already told me that the young kids keep on passing him. And I didn't really have a hurry to do anything. I'm just like, buy trees, buy soil. Like, I'm taking all of this in. So we get down to the base, and he said, yeah, my body aches and this, that, and other. And I said, sir, with all due respect, my body hurts too. And you're blessed with two hands. And I pulled my sleeve back, and I was like, listen. Mm-hmm. And I showed him my cast. He said, you climbed Mount Katahdin with the cast? I said, yeah. So I hurt too. And I said, the difference is, it's moving forward, And she was like, oh, and he kind of got quiet. He was like, what's your name? And I said, it's Dragonfly. And today I summited Mount Katahdin as a thru-hiker. Mm. And he stopped, and he looked at me, and he stopped complaining. And we walked down the mountain together. Wow. And he walked when we were at the base, he was like, hey, are you gonna, do you need a ride? Do you need anything? Do you, I'm like, no, I'm good. A hospital was picking me up, but it was really special. We're at the base, and his whole demeanor changed. And he went off to one direction. I walked in the other direction. But before we walked, we kind of looked at each other, and it was really special.
That's pretty powerful. I mean, I can just sense your emotion and your fire, and just how you like soaked all of this in. I mean, how has this changed you? How have you transformed?
I would say the amount of kindness on trail, it's just so refreshing in the places you least expect it. Like, I had fears. My fears were laid to rest. I was a thru-hiker. And the beautiful part is, like, the kindness of other people, the way that simplicity, like when you go into towns, and here it is, I'm carrying my trash for a few days, and you go into town and you see somebody litter. Like, man, when I came back, the first thing I did is I went to a trail, and I was like, can I adopt you? I'm going to be out here and clean up every single month, because So it's just like the beauty that you want to make sure that it's restored for the next generation.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned that you're a teacher by trade, that you've been, helping students
Hmm.
outside. I mean, tell us a little
Yep.
bit more about that because I do know that there's power in that. I used to be a teacher myself, but
Nice.
just in the last, 15, 20 years, it's all changed,
Hmm.
computerized and all the things. I mean, the things that you have discovered yourself personally and
Hmm.
what you've walked and how nature changes our outlook, our
Yeah.
perspective, our heart. What are you finding? I mean, like talk a little bit about your teaching and your findings. And if I want to inspire someone to get outside, like today.
Yeah. So again, my background is in early childhood education. I directed child development centers for many years. In 2013, I had the opportunity to study the Reggio Emilia philosophy of early childhood in Italy, and it's very nature based. And then I also had the opportunity to visit some forest schools in Germany. So at that point, when I could see how children were thriving and happy, and like I couldn't go back in the classroom.
Mm,
There was no way that I could go back and see the beauty and their confidence. So I started helping families privately. And I would take the kids outside and I would bring hammocks and I would do learning provocations and I would just make outdoor classrooms for them. And other people started following me. So I was like, okay, well, just, come in, bring an activity. And then people just started, following me. And so I said, well, they would text me in the morning. So I was like, listen, I'm busy. I'm going to start a private group on Facebook, and it's called the Village Nature Community. This was 4 years ago. And so I started it's a private group, started the group, and like the first day or so, I got like 50. I was like, whoa. By the end of the week, I got 100. Right now, I have 3,800 families that basically there's a schedule that goes out on Monday, and we meet at different parks and locations. We do learning provocations, and it's free.
oh,
And
girl.
parents, I have 11 administrators for the page, one for nutrition, one for moms of multiples, one for untraditional families. We have one for the community. And basically, it operates solely by parents, educators, and it's doing amazing things. So it just happened to, like, it's my passion, right?
Mm,
So I had been doing a lot of, when I was on trail, the villages doing, meeting up and doing some amazing things. What I'm going to do now moving forward is I'm going to apply for a nonprofit status for the organization, because when I came back, the village wants to celebrate you. Before I left, we did a hike and we simulated the Appalachian Trail for the children. And
okay.
so I think the village is onto something amazing for families and children, and and it's fabulous. And I would love to see people bringing their children outside, doing a hammock, reading stories in a hammock, being able to, do a picnic blanket in the village. Every day we meet at a different park and we set up blankets and we have learning provocations, and the children basically move through the different, stations, but it's basically self-driven, and depending on whatever that their interest is, then we'll expand it. We'll have someone come to the park, a veterinarian come to the park. We'll have, different water. We had the boating where I live close to the water. So we had the marine, I don't know what it's called, but we had the police force on the water come to talk to the children about safety.
Okay.
So it's just like, it's so incredible, so incredible. And
Well,
I really have been procrastinating on getting that moving. But now seeing how nature heals people on trail, seeing the difference. And like I said, is it because that I do have an education background, I have an extra nurturing gene.
yeah.
So I would always, encourage and, and just be more empathetic to other through hikers and like, and they're no different. I don't want to say no different than children, but, the level of kindness,
Mhm. We
that is seen
all
on
need
trail
that
that I just
connection.
kind of, yeah. It's just, so how this trail has changed my life in ways that I can't even, I've cried more in the 6 months than I probably have ever cried in my life. And they're tears of joy. They're tears of joy. Yeah. Yeah.
This is truly incredible. I mean, the things that you're doing, you just taking it on and just doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know our world, we're a bunch of overthinkers and
Yeah.
we become paralyzed
Yeah.
taking the next step. And you just busted through that barrier and the things that you discovered, the people you met, the fire that you're bringing back. Like I can feel your fire and for that to be passed along to the kids and
Yeah.
families that you're helping. So if you're listening to this, it's Village Nature Community, right? On Facebook.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I can think of people right now that would be interested in that.
Yeah.
That is their
Because
passion as
everybody
well.
needs a village.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing. And speaking about the village, and this I have to share this story because it's so profound and it's just so heartfelt. When I was on trail right after I broke my wrist and going with the cast, my phone stopped working. So I'm on trail and my phone's not working. I get off trail to go to the Verizon store, get to the Verizon store, they're not open. So I go to the grocery store and there's a little cafe and I'm waiting for it to open. And this lovely retired couple asked if I was a thru hiker. And I said, yes. And we got to talking, really wonderful couple, Debbie and Howard. So, we're talking. And then I said, well, I got to go over to the Verizon store to see if it's open. So I go to the Verizon store. They're still not open. So Debbie and Howard, they drive their car and they were like, hey, Dragonfly, are you okay? I was like, well, the store is still not open and I don't know if they're going to open today. And I think that the next Verizon is far away. And they were like, they looked and they were like, yeah, it's 20 minutes away. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to, because I got to get back on trail. Like, Dragonfly, we'll take you. So I
Mm.
was like, you'll take me? So I said, okay, wonderful. So they got me and they took me to the Verizon store. Where get to the Verizon store and they said, yes, your phone is broken, but you need to go ahead. We'll mail you a replacement. So I'm like, no, I'm on trail. And I'm like, really upset that, wait a minute, I got to figure this out. And Debbie is on one side of me and Howard is on the other side. And Howard said, here's this address. So I turned around and I said, Howard, why did you give him your address? He said, Dragonfly, you're going to spend the night at our house. We
Mm.
have a lake house in Burlington, and you're going to stay. You're going to stay in our house, and you'll get your phone tomorrow. So I went ahead and went home. They showed me all Great Barrington. I'm Great Barrington. And they showed me all around Great Barrington. They took me home. They fed me an amazing dinner. The next day, they were going to the opera in New York.
Okay.
And so they said, listen, the mail didn't come yet. We're going to go ahead. You can just come to New York with us. And I said, well, I don't mind getting lost in New York, and you guys have a great time at the opera. So we get to the opera, and it's this big, beautiful building it almost looks like a spaceship, a special designer. And then there's a beautiful courtyard. And then there's a driveway. And then everyone is being dropped off by their driver. And they have these little tables and they're having their cheese and crackers. And, everyone is just, fancy and, in this big, beautiful courtyard. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'll see you guys in a little bit. And I said, where's Debbie? And Debbie's coming out of the building. And she races over to me. She said, hey, Dragonfly, I got good news for you. I was like, okay. So I thought they were sold out, but they're not sold out. So I got you a ticket. So I said, Debbie, that's amazing. But look at me. I have hiker clothes on.
Mhm. To
Everybody's
the
so
opera.
fancy. I cannot do this. I think it's fabulous. But, and so Howard said, Dragonfly, come over here. So he's standing up. And so I walked over to him. He said, look, he faced the crowd and he said, listen, this is Dragonfly. She's doing the Appalachian Trail. She is concerned about what other people think of her. Here, she has a broken wrist. She went ahead, got on trail the next day and keeps on going. And she's wondering what we think of her. Can we let her know? I just about cried standing there. And these fancy people that I thought were, foo-foo. And
Right.
I walked into the opera and everyone's like, hey, Dragonfly, hey, Dragonfly, hey, Dragonfly. Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
I get back and I'm like feeling like a little celebrity at this place that I felt so foreign at. We get back to we go to get something to eat. We go the next day, it was getting late, so I ended up staying another day at their house. And then they carried me to trail the next day. They carried me to trail and we were at the trailhead and Debbie and Howard, they looked and they said, we feel like we're bringing our daughter to college.
Yeah.
And
Felt it
we
too.
hugged and they checked on me and I have adopted them as my parents. And we talk all the time. They're going to be coming to visit me in North Carolina. I can't even
Yeah, the friendships for life.
yeah. And how long did we meet on trail?
Mhm.
48 hours.
Yeah.
And they're going to be in my life forever.
This is good stuff. It really is.
Yeah.
Guys, first of all, you can't even make this stuff up. Before we started talking, a dragonfly flew by her, at her house. And she's like, do you see that? So it's crazy how the connections are made. But your post, what got me is that I don't know if you were heading in maybe to the grocery store or something, and you put on a pair of shorts that, I'm a fitness buff, I'm a trainer, all the things. And so when I saw you in your shorts that were way too big, that caught my attention. And that's how this kind of relationship started, guys. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, rapid fire, in this chat. But how many pounds did you lose?
Over 40 pounds.
Which
over
I think
40 pounds.
in.
But I didn't even realize that I was losing the weight. You're just getting up, doing your thing. And it's muscle, it's tone. It's like, I feel so youthful.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah.
The photo and it said 15% body fat.
Yeah.
I know. I stalked you. It was
and so that was crazy. And even when I went to the aquatic center and, I was like, would you mind just doing, a scan? And even when they saw it, they were like, oh my God, how long were you gone?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. 6
And
months.
yeah, isn't that crazy?
Would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish I had enough money that I would sponsor a bunch of people to do the trail. It's changed my heart. It's changed my spirit. It's humbled me. When I'm out here and I see someone not being kind, I think to myself, as I miss my kind people on trail, and, it's pretty, yeah, I would absolutely do it again.
Oh, I love it. Well, you know what I mean? Here's the thing. You're the kind person and you're going to come back and you're going to show people the way. For those that are not on trail, I know it. I believe it. What's one tip that you would give someone that maybe is stuck from a 9 to 5 in front of a computer all day, doesn't get outside? How do you get them to go out and hike, so that they can experience? Because maybe the AT is not on someone's radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get people to just move a couple miles a day?
So one of the things, I mean, like I said, is I do a lot of things with the village. We do hikes, we do wearable baby hikes, we do lots of different. And then I'm also a leader for a national nonprofit called Outdoor Afro, and getting people building diversity on trails. And I've been a leader, so I lead prior to through hiking, I would lead people like birding and kayaking and paddleboarding. And now I'm moving to hiking.
Hiking.
So I would say that baby steps, start with something like, if it's the water that you enjoy, do a waterfall hike, I would say baby hikes initially, but lean in. I mean, I am 53 years old, in the best shape of my life. And I can tell you, if I didn't have that dream, because I was not retired, I got to go back to work. It was the best decision I've ever made in my life. And like the same people that were saying, you're going to go play in the woods for 6 months. Now they're like, I want to do it. Yeah. I want to do it. And I say, if you are that person, I would say you just need to do it, because it's like 6 months has done so much for me. Every day that I get up, I open up my books or look through the pictures, and it's like, this is special. There's so many beautiful, special moments that I can't even.
That's how life should be lived.
Yeah. And it definitely keeps you living in the moment. I mean, I was spontaneous before, but like I am all in. Yeah, I mean, I smell the flowers, I still look and marvel, and I still do, like, it's just incredible.
I know you've definitely fired me up. I can't thank you enough for sharing your heart and sharing your love. And I want to congratulate you for.
Thank you.
You've been off trail for a couple weeks. And so I know it's been a change, but I want to thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Guys, before we wrap this up, I've got to say there's something truly magical about getting outside, unplugging, and spending time in nature. And it's a chance to actually unleash your inner adventure and slow down a little bit in this fast-paced world. And so what better way to do that by joining the Fall Trailblazer Challenge? You can make today your day one, and you definitely don't want to miss this one-of-a-kind experience. Head on over to jillallencoaching.com to sign up, get some awesome swag, partner with Unbound now to fight human trafficking, and hit the trails with us. And if you're looking for even more fire in your day, there's plenty to choose from. You can join us on the adventure of a lifetime in Patagonia in March 2024. We'll be taking a 5-day trek through Torres del Paine, the #1 national park in the world and the crown jewel of Patagonia. And there's only a few spots left. So go to jillallencoaching.com and get in on the action. Make sure to tune in next time as we hopefully continue to add some serious fire to your day with the Hike, Live, Explore series. We've got some more stories to share, and another special guest will be joining us to inspire you to make a shift in your life and unplug from the daily grind. I can't wait for our next chat. Thanks so much for being here with us today. I truly hope that we were able to fill your heart with joy. Before you go, I'd love it if you could let us know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe to the show, share the episode link on your social media if you found it inspiring, and don't forget to leave us a review. It really does help spread the message. We all know someone that could use a little extra encouragement, so let's spread the love. Until next time, remember to be fit, be fierce, and be unstoppable. See ya.